Sturdy vessel, made of a material that looked like metal, but felt more like plastic. Near the front where the ship had melted, a section of the hull had peeled back. I took hold of it and gave the material a tug. To my surprise, a section popped free. "Would you look at that?" I said to Mook, who merely yawned and then closed his eyes. "Thanks for the help," I replied. Mook snorted. The material I had pulled off wasn't big enough to make a drawbridge, but it was light and sturdy. Better yet, it left a gap between the rib-shaped support beams that gave the vessel its strength. I could get my hands on the next piece of the lightweight material of the outer hull. Another tug popped loose a much bigger section. I worked for a while getting it loose. Some wiring had been fastened to it, and a section of the ship's foam insulation was stuck to the sheet of strange metal. Once I got it free, I propped it against the wall. The afternoon seemed to fly by as I continued pulling off sheets of the vessel's hull material. I worked my way down the side of the alien ship. Some pieces came free easily while others took more work. But by the time the Orrkasi gunships returned late in the day, I had 8 sections stacked against the wall. Mook whined, then looked at me and yipped "Pult," the polytrot word for danger. I heard the roar of the enemy ships a few seconds later. We took cover behind the Alethian ship, which was starting to look more like a salvage vessel. The Orcs didn't blast the butte again, but they laid down more plasma around the bottom of the tall rock formation. In the back of my mind, I remembered a geology lesson from my childhood. Buttes were believed to have been formed by erosion when hard rock on the top layer covers less resistant stone that got worn away over time. All the rock on Leonis B seemed soft and pitted. Perhaps it was just really old, or maybe the vicious windstorms eroded the landscape in ways that were different than on other planets. Either way, the Orrkasi seemed intent on keeping me there. Did that mean they knew I hadn't left? I couldn't say. The butte was the only place to take cover on the open plain, and it only made sense that whoever had attacked them would take refuge there. But to my knowledge, the Orcs had no idea who that had been. Unfortunately, that didn't mean I was safe. The bombardment didn't last as long as the first attack had. The ships only made one run past the cave opening. I felt the heat wave fill up the grotto as a jet of plasma slammed onto the ground just outside the cave. As dusk fell, the Orrkasi ships raced back up to orbit, and I moved around the Alethian ship to see what the damage was. The superheated rock around the base of the butte had been turned back into a river of lava. The crust that had cooled and formed throughout the day was now glowing red, and in places the bright yellow of the molten rock shone through. Getting close to the moat was difficult with the intensity of the heat, but I had to test my new idea. I took the section of hull that had peeled away from the front of the ship and tossed it out onto the molten rock. It didn't burst into flames or sink. The material just sat on the surface of the molten rock. "That just might work," I told Mook as I went back for more of the material. "Inglat," Mook yipped. It was the polytrot word for careful. I nodded. "That's the plan. We just need something to get us across." We had some time. I wanted to wait until a few more hours had passed. Once we were free from the butte, crossing the 10 clicks to reach the rendezvous point would be easy enough. It would take Tripp and Beatrix half the night to get there, and that was only if they didn't run into trouble along the way. A couple of hours later, we ran out of water, and I decided that it was time to make our move. After digging around in my pack, I discovered some strips of parachute. It had to be from the material I had cut up to make myself a ghillie suit. That seemed like another lifetime ago, but the scraps were large enough that I could wrap up my face and hands to protect them from the intense heat of the molten rock moat. Once I was confident that I could endure the heat, I put my backpack on, slung the sniper rifle over my shoulder, and picked up several of the sheets of material stacked against the wall. It was lightweight enough that I could easily carry 4 across the grotto to where the molten moat trapped us.